This one's audio only because I'm sitting in the shower. Because I feel like it's a very comforting environment where I can gather all of my thoughts. Which is why shower thoughts are a thing. Anyway. So as I'm sure you've heard, the Pope died. And for some reason, a lot of people really like this guy. And I used to kind of like this guy too. What was his name? Jorge Mario something. Later, Pope Francis the First. Is it Pope Francis the First or just Pope Francis? Do they add the first when Pope Francis the Second is? Is it just Pope Francis or is it Pope Francis the First? Because they expect another one. I don't know. Like in England, they have King John. They don't call him King John the First because there was never a second. Something like that. Anyway, yeah, Frank's dead. And people seem to really like that guy because they thought he was slightly less bad than, John Paul II or your average Catholic prelate. But in all honesty, he wasn't. I'm not going to bear down on you with information like I'm some kind of expert, but I do happen to know that a lot of queer people seem to like him in particular because he was softer, or at least he was publicly softer on queer issues than, the majority of the Catholic Church, which is nice. That's good to see. But let's not forget about the fact that back when he was Cardinal of Buenos Aires, he was strongly against gay adoption. And wrote a lot of opinions about why he did not like that. And he also said that trans people were more dangerous than nuclear weapons and that the church should remove its faggotry, whatever the fuck that means. So he's not exactly some kind of Stonewall riots hero we're talking about here. He was a dick. He was an old, salty Catholic prelate, just like the rest of them. What else? People like to seem to offer music and video games. That's another weird thing. That fucking guy, MatPat, who I was gonna say something, but then I realized I'd have to take this video down, so, MatPat. Yeah, I don't like MatPat. One of the reasons I don't like MatPat is because he pretty much ruined the reputation of Undertale by giving a copy of it to old Frank. And turning it into like a weird meme for a little while. And then last year or a few months ago, someone showed up to the Vatican and hummed Megalovania to him like he gave a shit. And then that became a meme, and I fucking hate that song. Even though it's in Homestuck, and Homestuck is fucking like my favorite story ever. Yeah, cringe, I know, shut up. Yeah, I just still don't like that song. Anyway, Frank. Pope Frankie, Papa Frankie. Yeah. He's gone. And the next dude, I'm hoping it's the Filipino guy. It doesn't seem too bad. Plus, if it would be nice because, Pope Francis, he was the first pope of a lot of things. Like I said, not a very good man in the end. Well, I guess you could say, well, here's this thing I was getting at, but I kind of forgot. I think that the Catholic Church pretty much knows that its days are numbered, and they're trying to cut back on as many things that restrict people from joining as humanly possible. So they're like, oh, well, we used to say that, XYZ you're not allowed, but, whatever. We don't care. Because even with 1 billion members, that's 1 billion members with lifespans of, 100 years? Maybe with advancing medical technology, 120 years. It's not that long. Especially not in Catholic history terms, it's not that long. So, the church is loosening its fucking restrictions to try to get more people to join. And the more people join, the more people become devout Catholics and do their stupid little Catholic rituals and their rosaries and shit. I like to watch those little rituals that they do, because they remind me of some shit like that the Romans would do, or Aztec, something like that. And yes, I know Roman Catholics and Latin American Catholicism has a lot of Aztec and Mayan influence and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Very like, I like the if this then that nature of the fucking whole thing. The rules suck, you know, but it's fun watching the little rituals they do. Anyway, yeah. I don't think there's going to be a Catholic Church by the year 3000, but there might be. Yeah. What else about the poop? What else about Frankie? He's dead. And he's not getting buried. And that's another thing about Pope Francis that people like to fucking glorify for no reason. You see, in the Vatican, I'm no expert on these things, but in the Vatican, there are two different buildings that the Pope lives inside of. There's the Papal Palace, which I believe is called the Palace of Sixtus, and then there's the Doma Sancta Marthae, which is kind of like the Pope's vacation house / guest house, which is where Francis lived, because he wanted to be like, oh, I'm refusing the palace. I'm such a humble man. I'm just gonna live in the guest house instead. Yeah, that guest house full of 15th century frescoes. Yeah, you're so humble. Yeah. I just hope that whoever the new pope is can do his fucking job. Like I said, doing that thing, either just finally fucking be like, hey, church is disbanded, go home. Or do more to, you know, make it less thuggish, nightmarish, and evil. Because I remember Doug Stanhope once said, oh, when Pope fucking was Benedict the 16th, I call him Pope Rat, because his real name was Ratzinger. And people were like, oh man, you remember that Pope? He used to be a Nazi. And Doug Stanhope was like, compare those fucking two track records. Nazis, 12 years. Catholics, 2,000 years. The Catholics have a way longer fucking history of that shit. So he said, like, hey, you see that Nazi over there? He used to be the Pope. That would be scarier to Doug Stanhope. Yeah. Oh, let's not forget that the first fucking treaty that the Nazi Party ever signed was with the Catholic Church, pretty much agreeing that they wouldn't get in each other's life. Which is why the Vatican exists today. Yay! Because they struck a deal with fucking Mussolini. And because they used to have a country called the Papal States, and then they lost it when Italy was unified. They lost the Papal States, and they were like, we deserve our own fucking sovereign religious country. Yeah. Who does that remind you of? And that's why the Vatican exists, I guess. I was looking at a map of it. It's like, there's two buildings at the southern-east point of Vatican City where it looks like they colored outside the borders. Like, there's at least one building, like one building and half of another building that's just technically outside of the Vatican City borders. It's in Italy. Weird. Well, that was all I had to say. Thanks for listening.